Coming up on the Cowboys Report, ET or no ET? That is the question. You might have been baited on Twitter. We'll break down what you need to know, even though we've already said it like 100 times on the Cowboys Report. Next up, Jason Witten. What's his actual salary? Some in the media are still saying it's $5 million. It's not that big, guys. And speaking of tight ends, with Witten gone, Witten back, is Geoff Swaim a goner? Kind of seems that way, but we'll break down those rumors and more coming up on the Cowboys Report. Hello friends, welcome into the Cowboys Report presented by BetDSI, the internet's #1 sportsbook. I am your host, Tom Downey. We'll start things off with some Cowboys rumors on Jason Witten, and there are a pair of signings I want to get into as well. First up, is Witten's salary less than $5 million? I kind of thought we were past this already, which is going to be the common theme of today's show. But yes, it is less than $5 million. I was watching NFL Network yesterday, and one of their anchors was saying about, oh, hey, Jason Witten's making $5 million. It's just like when they gave Cole Beasley a big deal, both of which are bullshit. Jason Witten's salary is less than $5 million. It is a one-year deal worth up to $5 million via incentives. Oh, by the way, those incentives are viewed as not likely to be reached, which what that means is the Cowboys aren't going to pay it until next year, if they ever pay it at all. It's a one-year deal, a $2 million base salary. That's it for Jason Witten. It's really not that much. It's maybe more than we would have liked, but nowhere near as the sticker shock of the initially reported $5 million. So grade the signing of Jason Witten, A, B, C, D, or F, or maybe it's a re-signing of Jason Witten. Technically, they ended up cutting him, but Jason Witten has indeed officially signed his contract, 1 year, $2 million base salary. Now, sticking with our theme of having to go back and do old stuff we've already reported on, are the Cowboys not interested in Earl Thomas? This is fake news. Guys, we've been over this. I know a lot of people out there are smart, and I appreciate that, but the idea that the Cowboys aren't interested in Earl Thomas doesn't actually make much sense. We've been over this before. We know that the Cowboys want to bring in Earl Thomas. They've made that clear. They've made it clear because they tried to trade for him. Remember that? The Cowboys tried to trade for him. Now, we can get into the price stuff here in a little bit. But the idea that the Cowboys are totally out on Earl Thomas really isn't accurate. So it is fake news. Now, with that said, there is a but here, and it's a fair one. Namely, that Earl Thomas has to come to the Cowboys at the right price. This one is 4 stars. Oh, by the way, it's the exact card and note stuff we used last week on the show. It is true for both sides. The Cowboys will not break the bank for Earl Thomas. Earl Thomas wants a record contract, and I'm repeating myself here, but we have to because Twitter had a meltdown earlier this week. If Earl Thomas is going to get 14 or 15 million, he's not coming to the Cowboys. If because of a deep safety market, if because of a limited injury or a notable injury history for Earl Thomas or a limited impact last year because of injuries, then maybe it makes some sense. But again, there's a reason we kept giving it 2 stars. It was never set in stone. I feel like maybe people got a little excited about the possibility of Earl Thomas, but we'll wait and see. That's what free agency is for, right? It doesn't start until next week. Yeah, there's been some backroom dealings and stuff. Nothing's set in stone. Heck, remember last year when the Cowboys made a sudden run at Sammy Watkins that no one saw coming and ended up missing on him? Maybe something similar happens this time around, or maybe the leaks to The Athletic are more from the Cowboys front office, with the focal point being of let's negotiate now in the public media and help get that word across to the front office or to the agents of Earl Thomas. Now, do you guys want Earl Thomas or any big name free agent safety? Really, do you want to spend 12 or 13 or 14, probably not that much, or maybe $15 million? Type 1 for yes, type 0 for no. I'm not that interested in that price tag. But if it comes down to 10 or 11, as we've said for months now, that's where it makes some sense for Earl Thomas and for the Dallas Cowboys. Next up on our rumors roundup, Geoff Swaim. Is he gone? We'll give this one 3 stars. Again, it's not quite set in stone, but certainly seems to be leaning that way. The return of Witten does likely spell the end for Geoff Swaim. Doesn't really make sense to go out, bring back Jason Witten, and also pay, let's just say, $3.5 million for Geoff Swaim. He can go be a quality number 2 for another NFL team. You have Witten back, you have Schultz back, you have Blake Jarwin back. You can maybe go draft a tight end if you want. We'll get to that here in a minute. But you also technically have Rico Gathers for now. I don't really see the need to also re-sign a player in Swaim who you'd want to pay right away. If you're going to add a fourth tight end, they're not going to play much, barring injury. So why would Swaim want to come back and possibly get bumped all the way down to third, at best, tight end among the Cowboys roster? Now, today's show is brought to you by BetDSI, the internet's #1 sportsbook. Head over to chatsports.com/bet and use that promo code Cowboys120 for a 120% deposit bonus. It is March Madness. It's time to start betting on basketball. Even if you get some picks wrong, BetDSI will take care of you with that promo code because it gets you extra bonus money to bet with. Again, that's chatsports.com/bet, promo code Cowboys120. Let's talk draft and tight end then. Is tight end a top need for the Dallas Cowboys? NFL.com said it was the #2 need for Dallas, and I don't really understand why. It's just one star. Now, you can go draft tight end if you want. You can add a tight end in the later rounds to develop and try to groom. But what's really the point there for the Dallas Cowboys to bring in another tight end, especially early on in the draft? Witten's going to take snaps. You want to give Dalton Schultz snaps, and you want to give Blake Jarwin snaps, right? The other two young guys, emphasis on the young part there, have shown some semblance of flashes. But you don't need to reach. Now, if there's a guy that you fall in love with in round 2 or round 3, I don't know, I think the Cowboys are pretty high on Jace Sternberger. Maybe he's an option in that day 2 range, but you don't need to reach for a tight end anymore. Witten can hold down the fort, so can Schultz, so can Jarwin. You got 3 guys that if you absolutely have to, you can play. Instead, these are my top 5 needs for the Dallas Cowboys this offseason. Defensive end is #1, wide receiver, defensive tackle, safety, offensive tackle. Those top 4, by the way, are the 4 big ones where I'd like to find potentially a new starter because of Randy Gregory's suspension, because of the possible loss of Cole Beasley, because you're going to lose David Irving, you're thin at defensive tackle already. You'd like to replace Jeff Heath if possible. And then for offensive tackle, maybe you want to find your way into getting a new swing tackle potentially if you lose Cam Fleming. Now, speaking of that 5th need there and the swing tackle, could the Cowboys try to bring back Jermey Parnell? Now, this is intriguing to me. I'm going to give it 2 stars. Still way down the line here, so maybe 2 stars is almost too generous, but it makes some sense. Now, the Jags, remember, they poached Parnell away from the Cowboys because they had Doug Free. They didn't need a right tackle, the Cowboys did. Parnell got paid a lot more money. Now there's been growing buzz that the Jags could cut Parnell because they got to free up cap space. Parnell is movable with the way his contract is set up. And remember, Parnell played for the Cowboys from 2010 to 2014, and he was a good swing tackle. And if you lose Cam Fleming in free agency, I think Parnell is the perfect type of replacement for the Cowboys. A little bit older than you really want, but hey, if La'el Collins gets hurt, if Tyron Smith gets hurt, you know what Parnell can do. I think he'd be a good fit on that end for the Dallas Cowboys. Now, offensive line is not a critical need, especially on the interior. Fine, assuming Fred Beard comes back. But Smith and Collins are your only 2 reliable guys locked in beyond this, or for this season, I should say. Collins is a free agent after the 2019 season. So still early, requires a lot of if and thens for it to happen. But I do kind of like the idea of Parnell coming to the Cowboys if and when he gets cut by the Jags. Now, what do you guys think is the Cowboys' biggest need? Let me know in the comment section. We went through some of mine earlier about defensive end and receiver and defensive tackle and safety. Let me know what you guys think there in the comment section as to what the Cowboys' biggest need is. Now, it's time for some news items as well as promised. And you guys thought the Cowboys weren't going to sign a safety. I know it's not the one you guys want. But Darian Thompson is back with the Dallas Cowboys. He was a restricted free agent. The Cowboys didn't tender him, would have been a couple $1 million. Instead, they re-signed him to a cheaper deal, which makes a lot of sense. And by the way, this does not mean the Cowboys won't have interest in a free agent safety of any type. Darian Thompson's return does not automatically disqualify them from Landon Collins, Earl Thomas, Eric Weddle, whatever safety you want out there. This is a guy whose role is going to be to compete for the number 4 safety spot behind, in theory, Xavier Woods, Jeff Frazier, maybe with Kevon Frazier if they do bring in somebody else. And it's going to help mostly on special teams. So again, Thompson coming into the Cowboys, this is a depth play. This is like when the Cowboys signed Devin Smith. You're not assuming he's going to be your brand new starter. You're just looking for a guy that could compete for a role for the Cowboys. Again, he did not play much on defense this year, just the 1 defensive snap out of Boise State. Now, the Cowboys did add 1 more player as well. They've re-signed linebacker Justin March-Lillard because Thompson was not the only roster move today, and you guys thought the Cowboys were just going to sit out free agency altogether. Of course, I'm still kidding. Now, he again mostly plays on special teams. We know it's a one-year deal. As of right now, I don't know how much money he's making, probably similar to Darian Thompson's deal. But again, a veteran player who was on the team last year and provides depth at the linebacker spot. Now your only free agent is Damian Wilson, your strong side linebacker. Now you probably still want to add some depth anyway, especially if and when you move on from Sean Lee, if that's what the Cowboys choose to go. But you bring back Justin March-Lillard. He'll help you on special teams. Maybe now you don't absolutely need to take a linebacker in, say, round 5 or round 7. Hey, Cowboys fans, thanks for watching the Cowboys Report. If you haven't already, click right here to subscribe to our channel for all the best Cowboys coverage on the internet. That's news, rumors, highlights, mailbags, film studies, and a whole lot more. And I'm making your lives a little bit easier as well with the next Cowboys Report video right here.